when you decided to join, were you drafted or did you decide to join?
No, I decided to join. Yeah.
Were you aware of the war at the time, or you just were looking forward to the Marine Corps anyway when you were a kid?
I had friends that had joined the Marines, and I knew that was the only way to go. I didn't want to go in the Army, Navy, Air Force. I wanted to be the macho guy in the Marines.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Hoorah! Did you know about the war at the time, or where was the war at that point when you?
Right at the time, they were having trouble in Laos.
Okay.
There was no big headlines about Vietnam yet.
Okay.
And then when I went in, it was probably, I went in 1960 in August, and it was probably within 2 years where Vietnam popped up then all of a sudden too.
Okay.
So maybe 63, 62, 63, something like that.
Did you have any feelings about it, or were you even concerned about it?
No, I was just doing my job, you know. In the Marine Corps, you do your job. That's it.
So tell me about it. What was it like back then?
Well, it was kind of fun to begin with. I had boot camp in San Diego. Then I was sent to Camp Pendleton, to the Las Pulgas Marine Corps base in Camp Pendleton. I was there for approximately 2 or 3 months, and then we went to the Far East. Got on a ship down in Long Beach. We went over to Hawaii, and we had 2 days off in Hawaii. We got over, we went to Okinawa. We were stationed in Camp Sukaran, and this was about June, July of 1961, I think it was. And so it just happened to be that the island has a big football league. The Army, the Navy, the Marines, and the Air Force, they have a big football league there. And so they were having tryouts for the Marine Corps football team. So I tried out for that, and I made the team. That was in June, July, something like that. Well, the outfit that I was with, they had to go to cold weather training over in Mount Fuji, so they were going to go over there for like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Well, I stayed in Okinawa where it was nice and warm, and we played football.
Nice.
So for about 3 months, we played football against the island teams, and our team, that we had like 3 college All-Americans on our team. Halfback, he was the coach of the team, and 2 or 3 other linemen and split ends and so on. They had played college football already, and they were officers. And so we had a really good team, and we went 8-0.
Wow.
We won the whole island championship.
Wow.
Yeah, we were called the Marine Corps Strikers.
Cool.
So that took until about Thanksgiving. And then my regular outfit was up there in this cold weather training, so we had to go join my regular outfit. And so I went up to Mount Fuji, is where they were stationed, just below the mountain in tents. And I got there just as cold weather training was getting over, thank God. So I think we stayed outside in the snow like 2 nights, and then we got 2 weeks off.
Okay.
R&R, rest and recuperation. So all we did is travel around the island of Japan and had a great time for 2 weeks.
Very nice.
Then, now we're talking about, the beginning of '62 almost. So we were then sent on this battalion landing team. We were in a troop carrier where you get in the boats and go land if you got a problem. We were stationed in Subic Bay in the Philippine Islands, and that's a popular Navy base there. So while we were there, I got on the ship's softball team. And we, every week, we would go to a different town near Subic Bay and play the local Filipino teams in softball. We just had a great time. And we'd take jeeps. Sometimes they were 10 miles, sometimes they were 50 miles away. But we'd take jeeps and go play softball and then come back. And we socialized with the Filipino people there and ate dinner with them and everything. Just had a great time. But it wasn't that we played softball every day of the week. We had a special training, lasted about 2.5 weeks, everybody on the ship. And they took us to a different island in the Philippines, and we got off the ship, and we met up with a group of maybe 20 or 30 Filipino Marines. And for the next 2 weeks, we did survival training at their supervision. We were given a pound of rice each, and during the survival training, we go out into the jungle, and these Filipino Marines were teaching us how to catch fish in a stream, how to build a catcher thing to catch these fish so that you don't just live on rice alone. And they were teaching us certain trees or bushes or whatever that you could use, pick them off for vegetables. Something I had never known in my whole life, and it was just fantastic. And they told us stories that what had happened in the Second World War, that a lot of the Japanese had taken over the Philippine Islands, and yet the loyal Filipino Marines they were not going to give up. They were way up in the mountains, hiding places. They used to have great stories about that, over the fire at night when you're sitting around. But that 2 weeks was special because I think I could probably get along, if I was out in some jungle someplace right now. It was great, great training.
Do you think they applied any of that to the new guys going into towards Vietnam?
Well, I don't know the timing, if they had, when Vietnam started, I don't know if they had the timing, the time to do that.
Right.
We had the time to do it because Vietnam wasn't a big deal yet. So that was just a process to get us ready. But then, in the meantime, I was supposed to go back. I was supposed to only be a year overseas, and a lot of the guys were that way. So we had replacements coming in. So when they come in, the timing wasn't there to do that. So.
Right, yeah.
But that was a really nice experience. I mean, we had 1 pound of rice each for 2 weeks, and the rest of it we had to figure out. It was unbelievable. It was great. But they showed us great. I mean, those Filipino Marines knew everything about jungle living or whatever survival training. It was just great, and they taught us all. Then the realization came that Laos was kind of bad, and maybe Vietnam was coming. And so we went back to the ship, and we got on this battalion landing team, and we had to just kind of go around Vietnam, in the water there, offshore, waiting for something to happen. And only one time did we ever have to go in. It wasn't on a battalion landing team, but we were on helicopters, and we landed in Laos. And that was just like a practice in case we would have to do the same thing in Vietnam. But anyway, people could see that Vietnam was on the
horizon.
Yeah, it was. And so we were practicing to go in when we would be needed. So, and then on the way home, because I was getting short, I had been on 2.5 years, and we were getting replacements coming to replace us. So we were put on the ship, the USS Princeton, which was a aircraft carrier in World War II, and it belonged to the Marines. And so we got on that aircraft carrier, and they took us back to San Diego. Well, San Diego, when we got there, I got my orders to go up back to Camp Pendleton. This was like 63 then, 62, 63, somewhere in there. And I went back to Camp Pendleton at, I'm trying to think, I think it was Camp San Onofre on the northern part of Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the time when they were having tryouts for football. So they played 8-man flag football, and all of Camp Pendleton had at different places had teams, and so we played there. We didn't win anything there, but we sure had a fun time doing it. And while I was there, I did some testing for college, because I had been to college 6 months and left, and I was, you know, when I joined the Marine Corps, I knew that I wasn't going the right direction. So I said, okay, I'm going to settle down here and get it straight. And so I was trying to check out the college courses they had and so on and so forth, and see if I could get ahead a little bit before I got out of the service. Well, I took some tests and did well, but I still had a year to go. And so I was transferred to San Diego from Camp Pendleton, and I was at the U.S. Naval Station on 32nd Street in San Diego, and my job there was as an NCO for the prison, or they call it the brig, the Marine Corps brig there, and prisoners who were, you know, absent without leave or got in trouble and they were in jail and so on, they were where we were. And I was in the Marine barracks there, and we had approximately 300 prisoners. A lot of them were minimum security. They hadn't done really that much wrong. Some of them had killed people, and they had various offenses in between. So we had a jail. There was 4 or 5 rows of cells with the bad guys that had really serious crimes, and then a big area for the minimum security people. I spent a year there. I was the brig NCO, and maybe about a month or two before my 4 years were coming close, I had to go to the captain in charge, and he offered me a special amount of money to stay in the Marine Corps for another 2 years. Let alone I would get a promotion to sergeant and more money and everything with it. But I declined because I had made up my mind that I wanted to go back to college and, you know, graduate. So I turned it down, and 6 months later Vietnam started. So I was very lucky there.
Wow.
And that's really about it. I got back to school, I went to college, graduated in 3 years, and here I am.
Were you in school during the time when people started to protest the war, or was that much later?
Well, no, I was in school between 65 and 69, and that all happened then, yeah.
How did it make you feel?
I didn't mind it at all, because I knew they were there for a reason, you know.
Okay.
The people that were there in Vietnam, they were there for a reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But everything worked out fine.
Excellent.
Let me think, 50 years ago. It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I had brought some of this kind
Had
of...
to do some refresher.
Yeah, I had to refresh myself on when I was in and so on. That's all I can think of now. I think I got all the little tidbits in there, I think.
Well, I appreciate it. Semper Fi.
More than welcome. Yeah, Semper Fi.